part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
This episode of the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Align Health Center. Align Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio. The team at Align Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. And along with chiropractic biophysics, Align Health Center is also the leading clinic in regenerative medicine, also known as stem cell injections. And listen, you don't have to be an NFL player to get it done or have this treatment. If you have low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or arthritis, check out the Regenerative Medicine Clinic at Aligned Health Center. Come in for a free consultation, complete with imaging and x-rays to see how Aligned Health Center can help you. No multiple shots are needed, and it's complete with physical therapy built into the process, so there's no downtime. And look, it gets even better. Align Health Center doesn't charge people for x-rays or exams, and they don't bill you later. They let you know right away the cost. They're upfront and transparent. They are number one for a reason. Call Align Health Center today at 440-385-7357 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Align Health Center can help you. Again, that's 440-385-7357 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribb! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They blocked the kick!
Hello, everyone. It's another victory, yet ugly Monday for our Cleveland Browns. This is the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wetzel, at Holly and Liz on Twitter, joined by my partner in crime, as usual, Mr. Jeremy Powell. All right, Jeremy, we're just going to get right into it because this was a strange win and quite arguably Baker's worst game as a Brown. 14-7 victory over the Vikings, thanks to our baller defense. Jeremy, I'll kind of give you my thoughts here first, and then I will move the sticks to you.
Go.
Pun intended.
Excited to hear it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first, we got to start out with the defense, right? Real deal here. We had a lot of questions and worries in the start of the season. 7 new starters. Does Joe Woods really have it? Miles hasn't been himself. And then we saw the straight domination last week against the Bears. Then they were our saving grace this week against the Vikings. And they've proven that they can stop a rookie QB and a very good veteran QB. So they only allowed 136 second half yards. Miles had a team high 7 pressures, including a third quarter sack of Kirk. His first, was it his first one or was that his first interception that he had this year?
I think that was his first interception. I believe.
First interception, not his first sack.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
And which we'll get to too. But and then Troy Hill, I thought was a major difference in this game as well.
Yep.
Had a team high 6 targets. And then of course Malik Jackson and Myles Garrett and Malcolm Smith. By the way, this is an interesting tidbit, Jeremy. They call a defensive meeting now on Thursdays, and they watch film together on third downs, and it has brought a lot of understanding and apparently clarity to their situation. So I think that's clearly helping with them. So defense overall was just a straight gem. Again, Baker was awful, and we know that, and we'll get into more in depth with Baker, but he looked beyond off. His throws were high and wide. He was awfully inaccurate. He seemed to be hesitant, unsure, which might be a few reasons that we'll get into. And then, of course, Stefanski's homecoming. His play calling and decision-making was mediocre. He was going for it on the fourth down again. Baker got sacked on one of those. The challenge was a waste, albeit he said later on that, well, it was the first quarter, and he didn't have a good a view of it. But so overall, just, man, another rough one, Jeremy, and the ugliest one so far this season. Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
I guess I'll say that, winning ugly, especially on the road in a hostile environment in the NFL, I'm completely fine with it. Look, would you rather win ugly or lose pretty, right? Of course you'd rather win ugly. And we talked about a lot how it's hard to win in the NFL. In all these games, this is what I get so it's frustrating for me when I hear people try to say, well, Minnesota beat Chicago, we beat Chicago, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that in the NFL because every game takes on its own life. It's a different entity every week. You never know what's going to happen. And I'm excited. Look, we would have won this game last year.
Yeah.
Let me say that too. Let me say that it reminded me a little bit of the Pittsburgh game last year when Baker came out, played really poorly, threw the pick six early to Minka Fitzpatrick, all that stuff, and we got smoked. I think if this was last year, we probably lose that game 28-7 or, something of that nature. We do not win this game last year. It's obvious that it took a couple games for them to gel, like we said it would, because they didn't play in the preseason, and you have 7 new starters on defense, and now they're starting to gel, and you're starting to see what this can be. You're starting to see when you take names and athletes and plug them into a system that works for what they can do. That's what you're starting to see on defense. Offensively, look, I said this a couple weeks ago, the Browns can run the ball on anybody. Doesn't matter who they're playing. The Browns scheme and talent is such that we can run the ball on anybody. I will say this. I am a little bit concerned about Baker and about just how you can't miss wide open guys like he missed. The touchdown throw at the end. I mean, that's Odell would have walked into the end zone. It didn't even have to be a good throw. He just had to get it up there somewhere, because Odell ran a absolutely beautiful route. There was nobody around. All Baker had to do was just drop it up there. He could have thrown it behind him. Right. It was just, the first just down an awful throw. And he had another one.
The first down to Demetric. I mean, that was Demetric Felton. It was
Felton standing there on the sideline. I don't know what Baker was thinking. He starts dancing and tries to run it. There was another time. Remember Baker did a shuffle and then tried to run, and just weird, man. He played weird. And but the Demetric Felton standing there with no one within 10 yards of him on 3rd and 3. Demetric standing 2 yards past the third down stick, didn't throw it to him. There's a time he missed Kareem Hunt on a third. That was the one where he danced and shimmied and all that. When he missed Kareem Hunt wide open on 3rd down, just a weird game. But you know what? I'm not ready to panic. It is a tad concerning that it's been about 9 to 10 games he's played in the last 2 years under Stefanski with Odell, and they've never looked quite right. I don't think I'm not at a point yet where I'm ready to say that it has anything to do with Odell, but it is a little bit weird that in the games that Odell has played since Stefanski took over with Baker, they have not looked right. They just haven't. And yesterday, Donovan Peoples-Jones had 0 targets, played 42 plays. 42 plays he played, had 0 targets. That's a little bit concerning. Rashard made plays. Rashard Higgins just, like we've talked about, ad nauseum, all he does is make plays. Doesn't seem to, no coaching staff seems to be in love with him, but he does make plays. He's kind of the security blanket for Baker. But it just didn't look right. I'm not going to panic next week. If we sit here and panic, he'll probably go out and throw for 325 yards and 4 touchdowns next week to get the Chargers. So I'm going to give it a week. And I think there's more good than bad overall that comes out of this. Look, we had the best kicker we've had since Phil Dawson. I don't think there's any denying that at this point. JOK and Delpit both look to be second-round gems. Both of them could play. Like you mentioned, Troy Hill was a note I had made that I thought Troy Hill looked great. I thought Greedy looked great, made a big play. Didn't get his head turned on that other ball, but, he was in position. There's just a lot to like. Even Jadeveon Clowney. So I heard someone say, he only had 1 tackle on the stat sheet. If you read stat sheets, you're a moron. You could see, if you watch that game, you saw him have an impact on that game. We did not bring anybody, a lot of the game. We rushed 4 a lot of the game. We were constantly making Kirk Cousins uncomfortable. We didn't always get home, but we were making him uncomfortable. So I think, I guess, to tie this all in a bow, I'm extremely excited about the defense. I'm excited what I see out of the special teams. The offensive line, as far as running the ball, the running backs, 168 yards, I believe it is, rushing. Again, dominant there. Just Baker missed some throws. Now, Baker would not say it was a shoulder. He said the shoulder had nothing to do with it. The shoulder's fine. There's probably a little something there to his shoulder. Or they just got him out of sorts, and that happens. It's like we talked about before. It's a tough place to play. It's a loud environment. Maybe he got rattled slightly and then just couldn't get it back. So nothing to panic about. We're 3-1 through the first 4 games of the season. Concern, yeah, I think you could be a little bit concerned, but I don't think it's anything to panic about yet.
Yeah. So, we had Michael Lombardi on last week, and, he was, rather favorable of Baker, but he would not put him in the top 10 QB list. He said maybe top 15, but he's not going in my top 10. He cannot convert on those key plays like Kansas City at the end of last year. And then game 1 this year, when Baker had 2 real options to take over and win the game. So yeah, look, I've been extremely impressed with his play action. He's had some flawless series. Yesterday was just a really, really hard watch. And regardless, it does kind of poke holes into, is he the real deal argument? It just does. And so what worries me a little bit, so, Baker has succeeded under Kevin Stefanski's schemes. He's lights out when has time to throw. There's a lot of questions around that. Is the O-line, was he rattled yesterday? He doesn't trust his O-line. Is he not getting enough time? Because when he was getting enough time last year, he had all the time in the world to throw last year, at the second half of last season, I should say. Yeah. And when he's playing confident, right, that's always better, but that's for any player when they're playing confident. But absolutely, even when he's been playing confident, there's still been some major key issues. And I'm not saying that he can't improve and become great. I think my only fear is he only great with the necessary pieces around him, which may be enough to win? Is he great alone? Exactly. Do we trust him to get that W in that one spot? If our D shits the bed, like, do we think he has that playmaking ability to get himself out of these bad situations on his own? I mean, we questioned a lot of that early last season. And then he went on to have like the best half season of his career. So there's a lot to think about, because he didn't just have he kind of had a crap game. He had a really bad game where he just looked completely lost. So yeah, you want to hopefully just chalk it up to 1 week, and everyone has bad weeks. It's like, I was listening on the local radio, and they're like, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers has a bad week, and Tom Brady. It's like, yeah, well, that's Aaron Rodgers and that's Tom Brady. Right. So unfortunately, yes, every QB has a bad game. I'm not out on Baker. I still think that he's our guy. I still think that he's going to come around, but it is interesting. There's no real talk about a shoulder injury or this brace that he's wearing. It's not even on his throwing arm. But if those are factors, if they are, they need to be addressed. That's it. So I guess my question then to you is, what are your thoughts on what I just gave you a mouthful of? But was this game just a fluke and he bounces back? Or, I kind of felt like this is going to be a statement game for him. And if it was, man, that was a really bad statement. So, or is this just a definition of a team win where one position just falters and it got picked up by the other side? And that's what good teams do.
I think there's definitely a legitimate argument. And you've heard enough people with gravitas, let's say, or people that know football that have said exactly what you just said. That Baker is more a product of a system than the system is a Baker, as in the system is more responsible for how Baker has looked, as opposed to Baker is more responsible for how good the system has looked. So I think that there's definitely an argument to be made there. I don't think it's done yet, but hey, look, it literally is the $35 million question. Do we want to give Baker Mayfield $35 million a year? Can he, exactly what you just said, can Baker win games, or does he have to win games inside this system that fits him? It's tough because you can't pay a guy $35 million, blow up your salary cap if you need everyone around him to win. If you pay him $35 million and he's not the guy, and you got to start letting guys walk in a couple of years, you got to let Teller go. You got to let, you got to let Kareem Hunt go because you can't afford to pay all these guys. is Baker good enough to carry him? When you see guys like Aaron Rodgers that we just talked about, guys that Tom Brady that did it for years, they were good enough. You could recycle. You could bring in anybody. Look how many stars Aaron Rodgers has made at wide receivers out of guys nobody ever heard of.
Yep.
There is a laundry list of guys that came out of nowhere to become stars playing with Aaron Rodgers. You did not have to bring in the stars around Aaron Rodgers because he made guys better. And does Baker Mayfield make guys better right now? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure we can say. I mean, and it's too early to say. But I think this, the more I think about it, the more I watch, the more I think Michael Lombardi was actually exactly right. Internally, the Browns have to be saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Not only is Baker Mayfield not worth Patrick Mahomes money, I'm not sure he's worth Russell Wilson money. So if it's tough, and it's tough to have this conversation honestly in Cleveland because there's so many Baker honks.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying I'm not one. I want him to succeed, obviously, but at some point you have to turn off that and look at this logically.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Baker, and I think Baker probably understands this as well. Look, nobody was more critical about Baker Mayfield's performance this Sunday than Baker Mayfield.
Absolutely.
I mean, Baker Mayfield came out and said it. He was embarrassed. He could, there was no excuses. There was no nothing. He said, this is on me. I'm embarrassed. It won't happen again. And it was bad, dude. It was bad. I mean, it was bad watching him play. It was like you said, after that first drive, it was agonizing.
Right.
It's like beating your head against one. And then also we talked a little bit about the play call. And I don't think his coach did him any favors this week because there were some really, and me and you, we both love Kevin Stefanski, love him, love everything about him.
Sure do.
But there was some weird play calling.
He was like trying to flex on his old team or something. It was weird.
I've heard some people say that. It almost felt like maybe he wanted to get Baker that big play to shake it off, But I just can't understand after I think we got a 1 yard run on it was 2nd and 9 with like 3 something to go in the game. And then with 2 straight throws. It's like we had just marched ball down the field. I think Chubb had a 13-yard run, 11-yard run. I just don't understand. Like we are built unlike any team in this league to run out the clock at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To get the 4-minute drill, the last 4 minutes of the game to kill that clock. We are better equipped than any team in this league to do that. And why we went away from our bread and butter, our strength a couple times there, I don't understand. Now, obviously, Kevin Stefanski's forgot more football than I'll ever know. But and I'm sure there's other factors in a play call that they saw on the field. And an argument could be made. Odell Beckham Jr. was so wide open that it felt like a high school quarterback had hit him on that play, and we missed him.
Right.
So but I do think that throughout the game, and we can go round and round on the 4th down things. At some point, I think Kevin's going to have to start taking some of those points, though. Especially maybe in the bad weather, you get down a close field goal, take those 3 points because you might not get down as easily again. So,
or if he knows that Baker's gonna have that type of game, there's you have to take him where you can get him.
Right. And I get it. I'm sure after the way Minnesota marched right down the field and then we marched right down the field, I think in Kevin Stefanski's mind at that point, he said, we're going to need these points if we're going to win this game. But I mean, who would have known after those 2? And the announcers hit on this a bunch at the game. Like the first 2 drives were both a thing of beauty for both teams, and then the whole thing just
and the whole first quarter,
the whole thing just kind of went, in the crapper.
Yeah,
there. But a lot of it
was such a weird game.
It was a strange game because literally it looked like offense. They're teaching a master's level class on offense for 1 quarter, and then the whole thing just went. It turned into a raging dumpster fire after that. Right. But a lot of that has to do with the defense. So, and I even saw somebody. I wish I could give them credit. I saw someone say that Baker that his closest comparison to Baker Mayfield's always been Kirk Cousins, and they had almost the same game.
That's a great point.
So I don't know. But
that's a scary good point.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
This is Mike Voorhees, co-host of the Swingin' a Tribe MLB podcast. If you love Cleveland Indians baseball, then this is the pod for you. We've got you covered each week as we talk about all the games, breaking news, trades, the roster, all things Tribe. You're going to love it. Go Tribe.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Maria Gincola with Mindful MMJ Ohio. Did you know that medical marijuana has been legal in Ohio since 2016? If you have one of 25 qualifying medical conditions, you can obtain your medical marijuana card today. The most common conditions are chronic pain, including migraines and back or joint pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, spinal cord disease or injury, and cancer. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more or to find out if you qualify, visit mindfulmmjohio.com and fill out the short pre-qualification form. The process of finding a physician, filling out paperwork, obtaining medical records, and scheduling an appointment seems like it would be a daunting process for most. But, lucky for you, Mindful MMJ Ohio will help you every step of the way to make the process quick and easy. In most cases, we can approve a qualified patient within 24 hours. And the visit is virtual, so you don't even have to leave home. So what are you waiting for? Visit mindfulmmjohio.com today. That's mindfulmmjohio.com. Let us help you be more mindful of your health and find a natural way to find relief from your symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I think the Browns have been smart with waiting. This is a big year for him. And speaking of like the Baker honks and people that go nuts and say like, well, like we went 0-16. Like, why can't you be happy? And it's like, well, here's the thing. We weren't happy now, but if we're also only going to be happy at this stage too, then what's the fucking point? Yeah. I mean, when we know we have all of these weapons, we have one of the best rosters in the NFL.
There's no
doubt.
We
see that, and one of the best coaches. How do you not second guess everything? It's human nature to be like, well, wait a minute, is this really working? How does this all?
Yeah.
Is he a product of the system, or is he really going to be a great quarterback one day? So the more and more I think about it, I went way back and forth on this, because like earlier in the summer, I was like, sign him, like set that tone, just get it done, whatever. Now I'm like, thank God they didn't, because you just don't know that this is going to be a really big season for him. And at the end of the day, do I think he's going to get Patrick Mahomes money? No. And I think they're going to see this kind of play out. And look, if we can still win games like we did last week and still get the job done, and we get our asses to the final game, then I'm here for whatever is going to take. It's going to take to win.
Right.
It's just, you wonder about the longevity of it when you see games like this unfold. It's just a natural thing.
But
so
this team reminds me of the team that with Russell Wilson on his rookie contract that won the Super Bowl. I mean, it is loaded. And if we do sign him to a monster contract, we'll never have a roster after maybe next year that looks like this one looks now. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
So that's the big question is, can he carry a roster? Can we bring in Devontae Adams, that no one's ever heard of, and he turns him into Devontae Adams like Aaron Rodgers has? We don't know. Not looking great right now, but we don't know.
Right.
You got to sit back a little bit. It's early. It's a 17-game season now. We're 4 games in. Like you said, he could go on a run like he did last year, and then we're all back to, yep, sign him up.
Yep, exactly.
So we'll have to see. But there's no doubt, no matter what any of the honks say, and agree. Look, I sat through every home game in 2016. I know what it's like to suck. I get that. But I think there's a logical and intelligent argument to be made that Baker is a $25 million, a year quarterback, not a $40 million a year quarterback. That's all. It's not a slap at Baker Mayfield. Not saying we hate Baker. We're not trying to run him out of town.
No.
I'm just saying there's an argument to be made to where his pay should be slotted in the next contract. It's fair.
And I want him as my quarterback right now. I mean, I do. Even after that game, like, I knew he was going to fall on his own sword. I wasn't thinking that he was going to try to pass blame. I mean, Kevin Stefanski wouldn't even give him even an ounce of the blame. Every question to Stefanski was like, well, what about just tell Baker this, or what about this? And he's like, well, I didn't get guys open enough. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you did. I mean, he didn't play. It wasn't a great play going in, but there was definitely some guys open that he should have completed.
There's guys open.
Stefanski's not going to throw him under the bus. And I'm sure there was a conversation that's had and much tape and film to be viewed. But yeah, like you said, remember when Freddie used to say all the time that Baker's biggest problem was he had to get his eyes in the right place. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe there was back to some of that yesterday that he was not seeing what he should have been seeing.
And he said there was some
I just don't understand how he didn't see the belt. How did he not see the Felton one, though? Everybody in the stadium and watching on TV saw Felton wide open for a first down on third down. That was a weird one. I don't know that.
And maybe, and like I said, it could be, he seemed shaky in the sense of like, maybe the offensive line, has had some hiccups. Maybe he wasn't as confident as he used to be. Maybe that was a part of it. But this is the type of, we've seen this type of hesitancy and this is what he was kind of doing in the beginning of last year. So not to this extent, but definitely parts of that. So maybe this is kind of Baker's MO in the sense of it takes him so many games to kind of really get into his rhythm and, okay, that's fine. As long as we're going to get to the end, we'll see if that scheme works towards the end of the season, because I don't want it to be like every year, like, well, it's going to take Baker 5-6 games to get into his rhythm. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So we covered some Baker stuff. So people, please don't call for Jeremy Nice Heads because we decided to be logical about the state of our quarterback. Okay?
Right. Exactly.
So, all right. But before we get to the Chargers, we did have a lot of other key players that made some really big plays. So Jeremy, who was kind of your standout player this week that you want to give some kudos to?
I thought the D-line, both Malik's played great. I mean, you can see what a veteran Malik Jackson is. Knowing Kirk Cousins is small, and he kind of planted himself in the center of the pocket, batted down a pass, maybe 2, was getting in his way, and Malik McDowell we talked about, it's like a giant human being. So I'm sure that was causing Kirk Cousins problems seeing him, but it's back to JOK, man. He is just everywhere. 7 tackles, 5 solo tackles. He flies around. He is just a dynamic player. He played, I think, his best game, and coming into the game, PFF had him as the highest rated linebacker in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had his best game this week. And I think just the overall, this is nothing I want to touch on. The overall speed of our defense is so much better than last year. And the tackling, this is the best tackling Browns team so far, I think, since they've been back. I mean, year after year, look how frustrated we get. 3rd and 6, the guy catches a pass for 3 yards, breaks 2 tackles, first down. We're just not seeing that. I remember once specifically JOK on the 3rd and like 7, they had a little screen that looked like it was set up, and JOK just came slashing in and made the tackle for like a 2-yard gain. He had an incredible game.
He's literally everywhere. Every time I look at him, I'm like, oh, that was JOK. Like, holy, I mean,
Grant Delpit, I believe he played all but 2 plays. I believe I read he played almost every play of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He made a couple pass defenses. He had some nice tackles. Just the young guys on defense. I'd say if I was given a game ball of sorts, I'd say it'd probably go to the young guys on the defense. Miles played great, had a half a sack, I believe, would have had another sack, but there was a holding call, if you remember, on that long play where he was going to crush Kirk Cousins, and Conklin just grabbed him. No, that was legit. I mean, that would have been a sack if Conklin wouldn't have wrapped him up. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
So
But some of those penalties really hurt us too. It's so the offsides. And then can we also talk about, I know I'm going to switch gears again, but Jedrick Wills, like what's going on there?
Oh yeah. I have to fight with my fifth grade son every single week about he hates Jedrick Wills. He thinks he stinks, but he does.
Why
he gets
is he
a lot of penalties.
Hurt, right?
Yeah, he's hurt.
Why is he in if he's hurt?
It feels like that you get every single game you'll get a holding and a false start from Jedrick Wills, right? It feels like that, doesn't it? That he gets a holding game and a false start game, and he's left all 3 games. I think it comes down to this, and I heard Nathan Zagura say this. I'll credit him. Is that they want him to do everything it takes to play until Chris Hubbard is back, because they do not feel comfortable with Blake Hance. They do not feel comfortable with Hudson. They don't feel comfortable with any of those guys at left tackle for extended period of time.
Blake's not even really been that terrible.
No, it doesn't seem like it to us, but we don't know what they have to do to protect him. They may be, when he was been in the game, they may be running, tight ends to his side to chip and stuff to help him. We don't know that. So we don't know. But this is just what Zagura said.
But is it to go ahead, finish?
Well, Zagura thinks that they want him to do everything it takes to play until Chris Hubbard can get back. They just obviously they don't feel comfortable with the left tackle situation, or they wouldn't be running him out there if they felt there was an option. Look, right now the Browns must believe that Jed Wills at 60% is as good as Blake, Hudson, any of those guys at 100% is the only thing I could think.
Strange. I know, but that's the strangest thing. It's like he's like good for like a good 40 minutes of the game. And he makes a couple penalties. That's
3 straight games, 2 penalties.
That's what he's worth for.
Plays 75% of the game. 75% of the game and gets 2 penalties and leaves for the fourth quarter, like 3 straight games. It is weird. No, I agree with you. It's just, that's the best explanation I've heard and can come up with.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we'll go back to some good news outside of, we know Baker knows how to tie a shoe, by the way. So that was one small highlight.
Hey, that's servant leadership right there, right? When your quarterback will get down and tie the shoes of his lineman, that's like Jesus watching the feet of his disciples, right?
Right. You're right. Oh my God.
But no, that was an interesting moment. I thought it was neat. Look,
no, it was cute. I was looking for the bunny ears, the whole deal. I was analyzing that like you would not believe.
That's great.
But anyway, that was one small highlight, though that was not my favorite. But I definitely echo you on JOK. I thought Greedy, he's the one that had the huge interception.
That's 3 second-round picks right there, all playing big, right?
Yeah.
Greedy, Delpit, and JOK. Gotta love that. That's where you build your team through those kind of picks. And for years, that's why we sucked, because we couldn't hit on high draft picks.
Right.
And now it looks like over the last 4 or 5 years, we've hit on all our high draft picks. So
yeah. And I was worried about Greedy going in. I was not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Confident.
Everybody was. But he looked good, man. The pick he had, he dropped deep into his zone. I don't think Kirk Cousins ever even saw them. I think Kirk Cousins thought he had a wide open throw there. And Greedy had a couple other nice plays. The good thing about Greedy, look, Greedy's rangy. He's tall.
Mm-hmm.
He's long. If Greedy can stay healthy, I really believe Greedy's gonna be a big player. And look, Greg Newsome's been awesome. So if Greedy's a player, Newsome gets back and he's awesome. Then we're starting to have something here.
Yeah.
Delpit, bunch of rangy.
He filled some big
shoes.
He filled some big shoes.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I'm excited.
Okay, so we're going to now look forward because we got the W and we want to, try to burn that Baker game out of our minds.
Right.
Browns right now are favored by 1 point over the Chargers, but as we record this podcast, the Chargers are currently playing, so the line could change. But right now, Cleveland is slightly favored, at least in Vegas. But not elsewhere, Jeremy. There's a couple. So ESPN has the Chargers with a 52.3% chance, and another website, 538.com, have the Chargers at a 56% win probability. So elsewhere, not totally favored on our end. They're going to need that defense again on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And this is a team. Chargers are a team that can put up points in a hurry. Justin Herbert is a fantastic quarterback, second season. And they're going on the road, right? They're going into this random stadium, by the way, that apparently has a half roof. I'm learning as the game was going on tonight, which is just so ridiculous. I don't understand. It's $5 billion. Get a full roof, Yeah.
Right. You shouldn't have to have a 40-minute weather delay at a $5 billion dome.
Like what?
Like that shouldn't be a thing.
What twilight zone am I living in?
Right.
And, they're just, the Chargers are still a tough team to peg. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. I think this is going to be another questionable coin toss type of game.
No, I agree. And as we speak, it's 21-0 Chargers over the Raiders. So
thank you for that update.
Whooping up on the undefeated Raiders. Yeah, man, you're right. I mean, look, it's a tough nut to crack, and they're a young team, right? The Chargers are a young team. There's a lot of guys. They have a mix of veterans. They have your Keenan Allens, your Austin Eckler's, those guys, but they also have a lot of young guys playing. You have a second-year quarterback. You have a young offensive line that's good. You got Joey Bosa,
an
absolute monster strip sack earlier in the game. Rashawn Slater at left tackle has been awesome. So it's an up and coming team for sure, but it also could be a team that could be a little inconsistent. So you don't know who you're going to get. If they do finish off this big win against Oakland, they could be primed for a letdown coming off that, and with Baker having the horrible game last week, he's going to want to come out and have a great game. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I can't wait. I bet we end up getting Nance and Romo on that. Probably will be the big 425 national game. Going to be a fun game, but yeah, you never know. But you know what do they always say? Defense and run game travel, right? So if you can run the ball and you can play defense, that generally doesn't stay home. You can usually take that with you. So the fact that right now it looks like we have a fast, aggressive, young defense that can play. And obviously, I know the Ravens might be number one overall. I don't know. We might have passed them yesterday, actually, but the Browns have in my opinion, the best running game in the league. So I think that, I think that the Browns could control the clock again. If Baker can just hit a couple of those, realistically, we probably should have won that game 28-7 yesterday.
Well, that's what Jeremy, he hits a couple of those. It's just a whole different story. We blow them out almost. And
Odell's happy and everybody's happy.
I don't see us blowing out any team this year.
Well, we blew out the Bears. I think we'll get a couple blowouts. Yeah. Here's where I'll disagree with you. If we do start humming on offense, the way the defense is playing, we'll blow out a lot of people. But yeah, we just got to get that back. We got to make sure that Baker's game was an aberration. And what better way to do it than in a $5 billion brand new stadium on national TV
with a half roof.
With a half a roof.
Get it together,
as there's no
Los
lightning
Angeles,
in Los Angeles, well, we should be all right. No, but yeah, it'll be it's exciting. Look, I can't wait. I'm excited for the game.
What's your prediction score?
Let's go. I think Baker does bounce back and have a good game because that's kind of his nature. He does seem to thrive on adversity, and obviously no one is going to be more upset this week than Baker Mayfield and want to prove it. And I think the Browns are going to win this game. Actually, I think I'm going to say the defense plays well again. I'm going to say it's 27-17. 27-17 Browns. Baker has 2 touchdown passes. Odell gets off the schneid and gets a touchdown, and you see the Browns formula with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb salting it away in the fourth quarter. So 27-17 Browns.
Okay.
Mark it down. Good. Save it.
Yeah, I mean, right now I can't not pick the Browns because they've continued to win. The only game I didn't pick them, and you and I were both on the same page, was Kansas City. So I'm still going to pick them to win this week, even despite. So I think it's going to be a little bit closer, but I do think it's going to be higher scoring for sure. I do think Baker's going to bounce back to a certain extent. He's definitely going to have that chip on his shoulder, which is where he seems to play the best as the underdog. So it'll definitely be a good matchup. 425 game. I'm excited, and let's pray for no lightning in LA. So
yeah, we don't need a 5:05 start.
No,
I couldn't believe that. I was like, and I was telling Eli beforehand here, I always let my son stay up for the first half on Monday Night Football, and 55-minute delay. So he's probably, is it halftime? It's halftime now. So he's probably in there like laughing because he's allowed to stay up till halftime, and it's an extra hour.
What a smart kid.
So someone's happy right now, right?
Absolutely.
No, but yeah, I saw that. I was like, are you kidding me? A weather delay on a $5 billion dome? No, interesting. But yeah, 425 start. I bet we get Nance and Romo. It's going to be fun. Whole world will be watching. Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, star-studded event. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great.
And I think we're going to win.
Yep. Same here. So. All right, Jeremy, thank you. As always, the Orange is Oranger is part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Orange is Oranger, at Press Play Pods. And to find out more about our network, check out pressplaypodcast.com and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Go freaking Browns this week. Bring home the dub.
Let's freaking go. Come on, Baker. Bounce back, baby.
Let's go. Thanks, guys.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.